Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film Meeks Cutoff. And this is the new film directed by Kelly Reichardt. A group of settlers, all couples, one has a kid, and that same couple, the mom is pregnant, traveling by the Oregon Trail, guided by this character named Meek. He's guiding them to, I guess, new land to settle on. And Meek is very good at trying to get people away from Indians and finding them the right path. They kidnap an Indian traveler and make him their guide as they keep on their quest, which seems never ending. And they're always asking how many more days, like, what's your calculations? And it just feels like there's never really an answer. It sets up this kind of surreal but very historically realistic situation. Most Westerns actually take place during Reconstruction. This film takes place before the Civil War. It's interesting how this feels very much influenced by spaghetti westerns and Sergio Leone, but at the same time, this to me feels more like a John Ford western. The themes are incredibly universal for being so specific. This film is in 4:3, which is kind of unusual, especially nowadays, but I think that kind of works for some reason. It gives it kind of more of a homey feel. 4:3 just has a nice atmosphere to it. I guess this would best be described as a feminist minimalist Western. Every time the men are always going off to have these meetings, if you overhear anything, they always seem like they have absolutely no clue what's going on. Meek has no clue where they're going. Meek, who is based on a real character apparently, who would take people on the Oregon Trail. He is just telling tall tales and loves to be the center of attention. He has no clue either. He wants to talk about how great he is and how great these crazy stories he has about killing Indians that you have no way of proving, but he's really good at telling them. I don't think he's very convincing, but he's good at telling them. You could interpret this film in many ways. I've read reviews where they compare Meek that he's like George Bush, like kind of a political statement. I don't think that's actually there in the film. You can attach your own meaning and interpret things any way you can. This film is very open to interpretation, especially with the character of Meek. Meek could represent Bush. If you're a conservative, you might think Meek is Obama, or if it was the 80s, you might think it's Reagan, or if it's the 70s, you might think it's Nixon or Gerald Ford. The whole situation with the husbands, I think you can interpret as kind of like saying something about government or saying anything about people who are in charge. This film is very slow. Culture was slower then. People talked slower. You know, things move slower. I'm sure people were quieter for longer then. The opening, you don't really even make out anyone's distinct personality. You rarely see faces or hear voices for a long time. This is a long, arduous quest. So you're slowly building into things, and it like very slowly moves. It's kind of interesting in that way. They're just always on this quest. They're always going, and you don't really understand what's the point. And you feel like this kind of existential dread to it all. Like, what's the purpose of this quest at this point? Where did we even start from? Because I don't know where they started from, really. You have all this spread out space, and you don't know how vast it is. I don't even know if they really knew exactly when it would end. The score, which is by Jeff Grace, I thought was both tranquil and haunting and spooky at the same time. And the whole film has kind of almost a Zen vibe to it, that even though they don't really understand the point of what they're doing it. They've kidnapped this Indian and they're letting him guide them, but they don't know what he's saying. They don't know where he's really leading them. I never really felt like he was leading them to like their doom or anything. But you don't actually know what he's saying. He's speaking in a language that none of them speak and I don't speak. And this film almost to me feels just very like a circle. There's one part where Meek says maybe what we're doing was written a long time ago. It has this sense like they're just forever traveling, like this is purgatory almost. Is where they're going to actually turn out to be anything? Or are they going to have to turn back? Like, the quest is the film. It's very quiet, it's very still, but it's tough. Very little happens in it. Like, absolutely very little. And I don't actually think this film is for everyone at all. If you really love cinema and you go to the movies quite a lot, but if you're a casual film goer, I do not think this is for you. For a film that's such a minimalist film, it has so much detail and it's so rich. The character's very rich for a film that doesn't have much going on, doesn't have all that much dialogue, but I knew them all so well by the end. And I can't say that about a lot of films, but it had one of the greatest fades I've seen in a long time. There's this shot and they all walk by the camera, and then I saw this horse walking at what seemed to be the clouds, and they slowly fade, and it's like a wider shot. And I think if this film had been directed by someone who did, like Kevin Costner, who did Dances with Wolves, I think you would have just cut, you wouldn't have done that. But I thought that was a really interesting idea. I thought it was kind of beautiful. I like how all the clothes look, and especially in The Wind when they blow up, where their bonnets cover the wives' like faces in a certain way. It is certainly a feminist film just because all the men are portrayed in a light like they just don't know what they're doing. It's almost a disservice to note it's feminism because I don't think it's as black and white as just saying like, oh, this is a feminist minimalist film. I think a lot of the themes are a lot more universal than just say, oh, this is feminist. I think you can object to anyone who's in charge of you in a certain way and note the problems with that and kind of feel like, do they really even know what they're doing? Or am I just blindly following this person? I don't think that's a theme that would solely relate to women. If you have seen Meeks Cutoff and you would like to talk about it, then comment below down there in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to.